So let's take meditation. All right, so first law, make it obvious. I'm just going to run through these and kind of give some practical ideas. So, is it obvious where the behavior is going to occur? So, this comes back to the environment piece I mentioned earlier. Habits are behaviors that are tied to a particular context. So, do you have a space? Do you have either a chair that's your meditation chair, or a spot on the floor where your pillow sits, or a particular room in your house or office or whatever that's the meditation room? But it doesn't matter whether it's a space or a whole room to itself or whatever, but I think it should be obvious where the behavior exists. And there are actually a few studies that have shown that it's easier to build a new habit in a new environment. Sometimes, for
Mm,
example, they talk about people building habits when they're on vacation or in a room that they don't normally go into or whatever. But the way to think about this, I think, is that all the rooms that you currently visit, they sort of have like a behavioral bias to them. So, like if your couch is the place where you watch Netflix, then when you go in and try to meditate there, you're sort of unconsciously being pulled toward picking up the remote and turning the TV on, even if you wouldn't actually say it like that, but you're sort of fighting against the behaviors that usually happen in that space.
right.
So that's why it's helpful to, I think, even if it's in the same room, even if it's still in the living room, get a new chair and put that in the corner, and that becomes the reading chair or the meditation chair or whatever. So making it obvious where the behavior is going to occur, I think that's a good first step. Second thing you can do, this also is still with the first law, make it obvious. There's a strategy, and there have been hundreds of studies on this, called implementation intentions. And an implementation intention is when you fill out a sentence that states your intention to implement the behavior at a particular time or place. So, for example, there was one exercise study that found that people were 2 to 3 times more likely to work out if they filled out this one sentence that said, I will partake in at least 20 minutes of vigorous exercise on this day, at this time, in this place. Similar studies have been done for increasing the odds that you show up to the polls and vote. If you say, I'm going to vote on November 4th at 11 a.m. at this polling station, or getting your flu shot, I will go get my flu shot on November 12th at this doctor's office. Recycling, quitting smoking, all kinds of things. So it sounds simple to say, oh, you should just come up with a plan for when you're going to meditate. But the truth is, I think a lot of people wake up each day and they think, oh, I hope I feel motivated to meditate today. Again, even if they aren't consciously saying that to themselves, people are just sort of like, I hope I have the energy to go to the gym, or it feels like a good day to write, or whatever it is. So a lot of times people feel like they lack motivation when what they really lack is clarity. And
Mm,
if you fill out that sentence, then you know with great clarity exactly when and where the behavior is going to occur. You make it very obvious. So, environment design, implementation intentions. Second step, make it attractive. The more attractive or appealing the habit is, the more you feel motivated to do it. I think this could be done by choosing the type of meditation that feels most exciting or appealing to you. So like let's say for example that the idea of just sitting and listening to your breath or focusing on your breath sounds kind of boring to you. But the idea of having a guided meditation, maybe that's more enjoyable. Maybe even one with, I don't know, a little bit of light music. And if that sounds more appealing, do that form of the habit early on. With many habits in the beginning, the objective is to fall in love with doing the habit. And after you fall in love with it, then you can branch out to all kinds of stuff. You can, try things of different intensity or try the more difficult version or whatever. But the first objective is to make it something that you love and something that's part of your daily life. So I think make it appealing, make it attractive. That's the second law. Third law, make it easy. So this is mostly, I would say in the case of meditation, scale it down. Rather than judging yourself for not meditating for 15 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever it is every day, just meditate for 60 seconds to start. Master the habit of showing up. My favorite story about this, there's this reader of mine, his name's Mitch, and I mentioned him in Atomic Habits. He ended up losing over 100 pounds. But for the first 6 weeks that he went to the gym, he had this little rule where he wasn't allowed to stay for longer than 5 minutes. So he
mm,
would get in the car, drive to the gym, get out, do half an exercise, get back in the car, drive home. And it sounds ridiculous, right? You're like, this is silly. It's not going to get the guy the results that he wants. But I think this is a deeper truth about habits that people often overlook, which is a habit must be established before it can be improved, right? It has to become the standard in your life before you can worry about optimizing or scaling it up. If it's just, Meditating for an hour every day is great in theory, but if it just remains a theory, there's nothing to work on. There's no raw material to work with. So meditating for 60 seconds doesn't sound as sexy, but if we can get it established, then you've got some raw material to build on. Then you have something to optimize. And so making it easy is the third law, and I think that's a good way to apply that there. And then the fourth one is make it satisfying. I think actually, Sam, your app does a good job with this with like the streaks and so on. If you see your streak building up, you get to check off another day. That's satisfying. It's a small thing, but it feels good to build that up. Habit trackers, whether it's, in an app or putting an X on a calendar or whatever, ways to measure your progress. That really, I think, is one of the bigger picture things about making a habit satisfying is you want some way to visualize your progress. Because if you feel like you're making progress with your habits, you have every reason in the world to continue. And so I think those kind of four things, optimizing the environment, maybe writing out an implementation intention, choosing the type of meditation that feels most appealing to you and making it short and easy to do, especially in the beginning, and then having some way to visualize your progress and feel satisfied with it. You start to layer those strategies together and it becomes much easier to build a better habit. And this is something that I mentioned at the very end of Atomic Habits, this idea that we talked about 1% changes, but the holy grail of habit change is not like a single 1% improvement. It's 1,000 of them. You're layering these little things on top of each other. You're trying to build a system, to bring it back to what we talked about earlier, a system for change. It's not just one little thing that's going to radically transform your life. It's a commitment to layering these things on top of each other. So those are some quick examples of how to maybe do that with meditation.